So to start, disclosure or whatever you want to call it, I don't watch sports. I don't really give a fuck about sports. The only reason that I know anything about the situation that's going on in the NFL right now is because it has crossed into the political spectrum. And as much as I'd like to not follow politics for my sanity, I do. Whenever something like this comes up, there's always at least a small group of people, and with cable news right now, it seems like there's a large group of people who will say something like, well, my granddaddy didn't fight in the world wars to allow some indignant hippie to desecrate our country this way. And I've got bad news for those people, because they kind of did. That is, assuming that the people who fought in these wars, the veterans who served, were actually serving our country and its principles, because one of its principles is the right to protest, the right to dissent. In fact, this is usually given in history class as the primary deciding factor for why the United States became a nation. Not exactly the case, but, this is the revisionist history that we were raised with. And I think it's especially screwed up to see the talking heads on TV and the internet condemn this sort of thing, talking about how this isn't what America stands for, this isn't what the veterans fight for, USA, USA, when you can see a lot of these same people turn around and defend white supremacists and neo-Nazis and people preaching violence against minority groups. As for whether or not the NFL is the appropriate time to stage a protest, I don't know. Part of the problem here is that no time, apparently, is the appropriate time to protest. When black people stand up non-violently, it's inappropriate. When black people stand up violently, it's inappropriately. When black people talk about violence against black people after shootings, it's inappropriate. When black people talk about it in Congress, it's inappropriate. When black people talk about it on television, it's inappropriate. When is the fucking time? Somebody tell me when the appropriate time to raise a protest when your people are dying is, because it seems like no time is appropriate, and therefore, I don't know, I get the impression when I hear now's not the time to talk about this, that people just want black people to die quietly and go gently into that good night. And at that point, I have trouble condemning any form of protest. So let's get to the other side of the coin, because, I know that people are going to say, well, this isn't a free speech issue, and I agree with them. The problem here isn't so much that it is a free speech issue, but that it's being framed in terms of our freedoms by supposedly patriotic Americans who think that veterans and our Constitution mean that you should shut up and, I guess, die. If the NFL or individual franchise holders decide to make a policy that suspends or otherwise punishes these players for not wanting to stand for the national anthem, then as far as I know, legally they have no grounds to be opposed. But that goes back to that whole First Amendment thing, because just because somebody has the legal or even constitutional right to do something doesn't mean that we can't protest it. They have the legal and constitutional right to allow this sort of thing to happen, and it hasn't stopped any of those people who are upset about this from burning NFL merchandise, demanding refunds on tickets, etc., etc. So, honestly, if the NFL or individual franchises decide to go the route of suspending these players, I hope that the black eye that they get from this image leads people to boycott the fuck out of them. Of course, I'm not sure it's going to go that route, because while there's been a lot of blustering from white people, a quick look at the demographics makes me think that white people are in the minority, so I wonder how any sort of decision is going to play out based on those demographics. Granted, I'm recording this about a week and a half before it's going to go up, so maybe there will be a decision by then. Maybe I'll be completely wrong. I don't know, and it's really out of my hands either way, so that's my lump. Thanks for listening. Amaranth out.